Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and this is a podcast that I teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and actually change your life. I am dedicated to making sure that I teach you the ways that you can step by step actually change your life. I give you the actionable pieces so that you can make transformational change in your life. And today we're going to be talking about self-concept and reading from Neville Goddard's Out of This World. It's definitely a phenomenal book if you're not familiar with it. And he teaches you how to start making choices with your own future, choosing the path that you actually want to take to get to this desired outcome that you want. And we're going to review your self-concept, what it means to change your identity, and how you can actually choose the future that you want, because our futures are all flexible. Everything is available to you, and I know that you've got this. Welcome to your Mindset Motivation. We're going to get started today by talking about self-concept, or your concept of self. And I've talked about that a bit here on the podcast, and like your identity and the way that you view yourself, etc. But I'm going to tie it back to a lot of Neville Goddard's teachings. And I'm actually going to try something a little new this week that I haven't done before. And I'm going to frame my content all for this week around your concept of self. On Wednesday, I'm also going to talk about the importance of not waiting and actually getting started, and how you don't have to wait for tomorrow or Monday or a new month or a new year to really change your concept of yourself. But we're going to really talk about this idea of self-concept and what it means to have a self-concept. And when other teachers and myself is talking about your concept of self, what this truly means and how you can use it to benefit your own life, how you can start to look at the way you view yourself, the things you believe of yourself, the identity that you hold, and what things you want to shift and change, and really change this concept of self that you have, this way that you view yourself, the way that you value yourself, the worthiness that you see in yourself. And so today we're going to be reading from Neville Goddard's Out of This World. It's actually one of my favorites, but I have a disclaimer every time I say that. I don't know that I would say that any of his are not one of my favorites. So every time I bring that up and I say that, I'm like, you are being kind of naughty, because you would say that every single one of his books is one of your favorites. And I think that slightly defeats the purpose. But then I've also decided that I'm a grown-up and I can have as many favorites as I want. And I am wasting no time today so that we can get right in. I'm going to go start reading from his first chapter in Out of This World, which is chapter 1, Thinking Fourth Dimensionally. Many persons, myself included, have observed events before they occurred. That is, before they occurred in this world of 3 dimensions. Since man can observe an event before it occurs in the 3 dimensions of space, life on Earth must proceed according to a plan. And this plan must exist elsewhere in another dimension and be slowly moving through our space. If the occurring events were not in this world when they were observed, then to be perfectly logical, they must have been out of this world. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pause there to start. So what Neville is saying is that, have you ever had an experience where you see something in your mind, or you feel like deja vu, like you've had a dream about it, or you just know the event? Something has happened and you're like, I know this event. You either consciously know it because you were doing a conscious technique to pay attention to it, or you kind of unconsciously, subconsciously know it, that you either had a dream or you can't really recall why you know the event. Just somewhere deep down, you know, I have experienced this before. And what Neville is saying here is that, well, if we have experienced this before, if we knew this event that was not happening in our physical world that's around us right now, then it must be coming from somewhere else. These things, these happenings, these external events are actually being created outside of this world and then flowing to us. So I actually saw a piece of content that was talking about time, and how when you really think about time, we are actually standing still because we're always only experiencing this present moment. And so when you have this present moment, you are in the present moment. You are not moving through time. You are always in this present moment. And so essentially time is coming towards you. Time is going to move through you. And so as you're experiencing this present moment, you can imagine that whatever this amazing event is that is currently out of this world, it is flowing to you. You just have to wait for the time to catch up to your present moment. And that's the premise of his book, is that if you are experiencing those things, or you know that you've experienced them before, you're actually experiencing them now, then they had to have come from outside of this world. They come from something that we don't know. We don't actually see physically with our eyes. We're not able to touch it in the way that we're able to touch other things. But although we cannot see it, it is created somewhere outside of us, somewhere outside of this physical world that we are experiencing, but then being brought to us to experience in a physical manifestation type of way. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. And whatever there is to be seen before it occurs here must be predetermined from the point of view of man awake in a three-dimensional world. Thus, the question arises, are we able to alter our future? My object in writing these pages is to indicate possibilities inherent in man, to show that man can alter his future, but thus altered, it forms again a deterministic sequence starting from the point of interference, a future that will be consistent with the alteration. The most remarkable feature of man's future is its flexibility. Now, I'm pausing here because this actually was very confusing for me when I first read it. I had to kind of go back to it a couple times. So I want to make sure that I'm touching on this point here. So Neville is saying, I want to make sure that you are aware that you have the possibility to alter your future. That essentially what happens is that as you are choosing your state, or as you are choosing your concept of yourself, the identity that you're holding, then your future actually alters, because what is inside you in the path that you're on also alters. And if the path that you're sitting on in your present moment alters, then the events that are on that timeline path that are coming towards you that we were talking about earlier are also going to alter to be in alignment with that state that you're currently in. So I'm going to actually read kind of the last part of that again, is that the most remarkable feature of man's future is its flexibility. It is determined by his attitudes rather than by his acts. The cornerstone on which all things are based is man's concept of himself. He acts as he does and has the experiences that he does because his concept of himself is what it is, and for no other reason. Had he a different concept of self, he would act differently. A change of concept of self automatically alters his future, and a change in any of his future series of experiences alters his concept of self. Ooh, now this one to me was like, wait, what? And I had to read it a lot and listen to it a lot because I'm like, explain this one to me. I am not following. And so what we're going to talk about here is that yes, you have the flexibility to change your own future, and it is determined by your attitude rather than by your acts. But your acts are determined by the state that you are currently in, your concept of yourself. So essentially, let's say that you're on a path or you've got a fork in the road, right? And one goes to the desired outcome of being your healthiest, fittest, most amazing self. And you just feel great and you have energy and you fit into your clothes and you like the way that you look and you just feel good physically and emotionally. You are your healthiest self. Okay, so we've got that person over to the left. To the right is the person that has made the choice to not become a healthy version of themselves. They're not working on self-improvement. They are not able to sleep very well at night. They're not getting physical activity. Unfortunately, they are currently having health struggles. Maybe their heart is having kind of some problems. And so you have these two extremes. To the left is this healthiest, amazing version of yourself. And to the right is a very unhealthy version of you, both emotionally, mentally, and physically. Now, if you were to take a left, you're going down this concept of being your healthiest version. Once you've made that choice and internally you've decided that's who you are, even if you currently do not look at yourself as your healthiest self, you're still on that path. You have now put your present moment towards where your healthiest self is on the timeline coming right at you, right? It is like on a freight train coming at you. And so you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to take these steps, because you wouldn't do the actions unless your internal state had already aligned to that person. So you then make a decision. I'm going to start putting my phone away an hour before bed so that I can get better sleep. I'm going to pick out an outfit that allows me to get up and go for a walk first thing in the morning. And I'm going to get outside and do a 10-minute walk. Well, now your actions, the things that you're doing, the only true reason that you're doing them is because you've aligned yourself to this healthiest version of you. You're on the path that is to that. Your future has now been altered away from this unhealthy version of you to the future self of being your healthiest version of yourself. You're on that path. So now your actions are going to be aligned with that future self. Your actions are going to be aligned with that person, because you are now someone who shows up for themselves. You see yourself as worthy. You see yourself as getting fit, healthy, feeling good, sleeping better, eating better, just feeling good overall. So that's what you've aligned to. Now, let's say that you didn't do that inner work and you say, you know what? I want to be my healthiest self, but I don't think I'm ever going to get there. It's not in my genetics. It's not available to me. I'm too old. It takes too much time. I'm too busy. I can't do that. And you continue on the path to the right. Well, you've still chosen that internal feeling. That is still the person that you are. That's the concept of yourself. And so your actions are going to be aligned with this person, because now you're on the path to the right. And then he also says a change of concept of self automatically alters his future. And a change in any term of his future series of experiences alters his concept of self, meaning that once you're on that path, your concept of self has changed. So you are actually, once you choose that path for you, your future series of experiences is going to alter your concept of self. You're going to work together, because the more confirmation that you get that, yes, this is the person that I am, the more that you continue down that path and you don't fall into your old habits. I am going to slightly jump ahead in the chapter, and I'll link it down below if you'd like to read it. It's the website that I love the absolute most. So I go to this website and you can read it, and they have it in audio form, which I think is just amazing of them to do. It's phenomenal. And it's really what helped me start to understand Neville Goddard, is that I would read, listen, then read. So I will make sure that the link is available for you down below, but I am going to jump ahead a bit. And he says, at every moment of our lives, we have before us the choice of which of several futures we will choose. There are actually two outlooks on the world possessed by everyone, a natural focus and a spiritual focus. The ancient teachers called the one the carnal mind and the other the mind of Christ. We may differentiate them as ordinary waking consciousness, governed by our senses, and our controlled imagination, governed by desire. And goodness, let's stop here too. So what Neville is actually talking about is the fact that when you are paying attention to only your conscious mind, that is the thing that you're experiencing now. You're taking every external event, filtering it through your senses with no thought to the fact that you have any choice at any time, that you don't have the option of actually changing the way that you're viewing something so that you can have a different outcome, because you can pick a new path at any point. They're always available to you. It's completely flexible. You just have to learn how to direct your attention down the path that you actually want to go. And so what he's saying is that we often, and I say we as like just a grouping of kind of humans, until we're taught or until we really wake up and start to recognize the power that we have with our own attention, we're very caught up in just going off of what the external senses tell you. And I'm going to be the first one to admit, look, I want to say something. I definitely don't know everything. I am on my own journey here. I do not have everything perfect. And I often have to arrest my own thoughts. I get worked up. I focus on the wrong things. I am also working on me all the time. And I find some areas are much easier than others. So there's no reason to beat yourself up or to be upset if you're struggling with this. It is just a tool that you have to learn. And the more that you practice it, the better you'll get. And then the other one that he mentions is desire. So he's saying that one is governed by your senses and one is governed by desire. And the desire is the things that you want. This is not something that's currently in my life, but I want it. So anything that you have, you're not really still desiring it. And I've had the comment made to me of like, well, I still desire my husband. But I would ask you, if you are currently in the physical activity that you are probably talking about with your desire, are you still desiring him at that point? Your desire is a want. So if you desire your husband, if you want to have physical activity with him, or you desire to be near him, or desire to watch a movie with him, or desire to spend time with him, that's because you're currently not. When you're in that moment doing it, you're not still desiring it, you're experiencing it in your present moment. And I'm going to jump ahead again in the chapter, but again, you can find it down below and definitely go read the book. He says, the habit of seeing only that which our senses permit renders us totally blind to what we could otherwise see. A little practice will convince us that we can, by controlling our imagination, reshape our future in harmony with our desire. Desire is the mainspring of action. We could not move a single finger unless we had a desire to move it. No matter what we do, we follow the desire which at the moment dominates our minds. When we break a habit, our desire to break it is greater than our desire to continue in the habit. The desires which impel us to action are those that hold our attention. A desire is but an awareness of something we lack or need to make our life more enjoyable. The first step in changing the future is desire. That is, define your objective. Know definitely what you want. Second, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. Third, immobilize the physical body and induce a condition akin to sleep. Lie on a bed or relax in a chair and imagine that you are sleepy. Then, with eyelids closed and your attention focused on the action you intend to experience, in imagination, mentally feel yourself right into the proposed action, imagining all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. You must always participate in the imaginary action, not merely stand back and look on, but you must feel that you are actually performing the action so that the imaginary sensation is real to you. It is important to always remember that the proposed action must be one which follows the fulfillment of your desire, and also you must feel yourself into the action till it has all the vividness and distinctness of reality. As you experience these things in your imagination, he's essentially saying you're experiencing these out of this world. And as you experience them out of this world, you're actually bringing them into your world. And the reason that you're doing that is because the more that you experience these, even in your imagination, the more that you're changing your concept of self to be in alignment with this desired end. So once you know the path that you want to be on, you can continue to go back to that path, to that end result. And you'll actually start, especially if you're paying attention, you can start to notice the shifts in your own behavior as you change your state. If someone was on a path to be their healthiest, most amazing, can't feel any better than I feel self, they would not make the same choices as the person who is still sitting on the couch, even though technically that's the same person who just went a different direction when they were able to make a choice. You still, though, would not have the same actions, those same habits. You would not continue to spend your day in the exact same way because your state has shifted. Your habits and your routines have actually shifted. And that's why a lot of times what I teach people is that by adding additional things that you enjoy and that relax you and are able to move your mind into letting go, which was my episode of last week, and I'll link it below, then the more that you're able to shift yourself into being that person, into being the person who lives the life that you're looking to lead, the person that actually has the things that you want to have. The more that you return to this, the more that you focus on being the person that you want to be, feeling that you are that person, and actually choosing the path that you want to take in order to be the person that you want to be. And that doesn't mean that you have to plan out the how if you're going to get there. Remember, your state, your concept of self is always going to drive your actions. So who you see yourself to be is going to drive your actions. My actions are going to naturally be different as a mother than they would be for someone who's not a mother. So that is part of my concept of self, is that I'm a mother. So there are things that I'm going to do, behaviors that I'm going to have, and things within my identity that someone who did not have children would not actually do. They wouldn't have those because that's not part of their identity. It's not the path that they're on. It's not the concept of self that they have. It's not the state that they dwell in. I certainly hope that you found this helpful and that it kind of cleared up some of this stuff for you, that you will go read Neville Goddard's Out of This World. It's a phenomenal book. And if you did like this podcast, if you're finding this information great and helpful, one, I greatly appreciate you being here and I'm so thankful that you're here. And two, I do ask that you leave a rating and or a review. It definitely helps me out quite a bit. And make sure you subscribe either on the podcast channel that you're listening to or on YouTube if you don't want to miss out on any of my content. I definitely put out quite a bit of content on the podcast and on YouTube. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure that you subscribe on one or both of those channels so that you're always getting the latest and the greatest. I hope that you have a beautiful week and I thank you for being here.